So, first of all, what we need to learn about this exam is that this exam is not about the theory itself. So the exam, Advanced Performance Management, is not the same as Strategic Business Leader exam. And I want to stress it because there are many students who come after Strategic Business Leader exam and they look at the theoretical part and they're like, oh, I know that building block model. Oh, I know that balanced scorecard. And then they are trying to talk about these models from the perspective of Strategic Business Leader. But you know what? The examiner has a study plan for you, and this study plan covers a set number of exams. And there is just no use for the examiner to test the same knowledge in 2 different exams. So there is no use for the examiner, for like the examination team ACCA, to test how the models work in Advanced Performance Management exam. Instead of actually applying this model and tell the company what to do, we need to talk about the models from management point of view. So how does this model impact on performance management? Well, actually, when we want to answer that question, we need to look at the structure of the question, and the structure of the question will have 3 components. Well, first component quite often is going to be the model. Let's say balanced scorecard, let's say just in time, lean manufacturing, quality management, and so on. It doesn't really matter. So there is some concept, some model, some technique, you can call it whatever you like. Then you are going to have somewhat what you need to do with this model. So what these words can be. Well, you can be asked to identify the impact. And when you identify the impact, well, actually here we have different ways that the question can be asked. Because when you are asked about the impact, well, you can be asked about the impact on performance. You can be asked about the impact on performance measurement, or measures, and this is a little bit different, measures. And you can be asked about performance management. So performance management. So when you're asked about the impact on performance, you need to talk about something that you see in your financial statements. So financial statements results. And these financial statement results, they will be something like revenue increase, cost decrease. They can increase, they can decrease, doesn't really matter. From the management point of view, it can be something relating to net profit, operating profit margin, and so on. Well, usually we talk about something that we find in our P&L statement. We do not talk about, let's say, accounts receivable, accounts payable, so something that you can find in statement of financial position. Well, it's just that this is like the practice in Advanced Performance Management exam. Okay, because you know why? Because the figures that you find in your statement of financial position, they are like frozen figures on this very point. But when we talk about the management is about improving the performance, and performance is something that has happened for the period of time. So it's not like a static situation. So that's why usually we look at the metrics that relate to P&L. Now, what else can be? Well, there can be something operational. Well, something that you would measure in respect of a piece of machinery or a person. Well, what can it be? Well, it can be quality. It can be, let's say, speed. Well, we can, when we talk about quality, we can also say about waste. And so on. So this is about performance. And I did that separation, like financial result and operational, this is, this is not like a logical separation. It's not like this is a must of what's going to happen. It's just for you to memorize it better. So think about financial statements and think about how you can characterize the performance of a person or a machinery. Okay, so this is what you're going to talk about, the impact when something is supposed to be explained by the reference to the impact on the performance. And it is very important for advanced performance management to understand that you do not need to comment on the performance. So no commenting on performance. What does it mean? It means that you need to forget how to read numbers. It doesn't really matter to you whether revenue has increased or decreased, whether net profit increased or decreased. No, your task is not to talk about what has happened with the performance. Your task is to set the indicators, the performance metrics that are going to be used so that on the basis of this dashboard, we would be able to monitor the performance and to correct that. Well, to give you an analogy, advanced performance management, advanced performance manager is the guy who develops a dashboard of a machinery or of an airplane, and the dashboard should include some metrics, some indicators that would tell you whether the car is going to the right direction at the right speed. And for that person, it is important to know what has already happened, what issues this vehicle, for example, had, so that they knew what indicators to include, but they do not really care about something that happened. They do not really care that this car speed increased or decreased. What they cared about is what was the top speed, so that they knew what is the last figure that should be in their speedometer, for example. Well, the same here. So you might use the information that the company has had cash problems. Okay, and this would indicate that you need to include some liquidity-based indicators, but you should not say that the performance of the company improved or became worse. So you do not comment on the performance, you talk about the measurement. All right, so another question can be, and it will be answered in a different way, and this question would be, if the model would ask you about the impact on performance measures or performance measurement. So when we talk about the impact of performance measures, you need to understand that you do not talk about like precise measures. So you do not say the company would need to include revenue and return on capital employed and so on. No, we do not talk about that. Instead, what we talk about is the types of metric. Like, let's say, as the company had problems with paying dividends for the past 2 years, it means it has cash problems. So the metrics, for example, on the liquidity will be needed. So types of measures, types. And types can be, well, when we talk about financial, they can be liquidity, profitability, investment. They can be risk measures, and you've already covered that. And basically, you need just the type liquidity. You would talk about that when there is a problem with dividend or with other signs that there are cash problems. Another type of measure would be non-financial. And here, I would remind you that you have a very nice Google Forms test where you had right answers, and these right answers would explain to you why the inclusion of non-financial metrics and external metrics and so on are important. Well, because you should not only state, but also to explain. So non-financial metrics, while the report might need, including some external metrics and qualitative metrics. And then you might think about absolute or relative metrics. And we do remember that there is no single metric that can measure everything at its best. So there is always a trade-off. And therefore, we need to have some balance. There is not a single metric that would measure the performance of the company the best. Like with a car, there is not a single indicator that will tell you that everything that is going on is going on like correctly. So absolutely relative, qualitative, external, non-financial, okay, and we talked about types. Nice. We also can talk about the fact that these metrics need to be long-term metrics. And again, we explain the types. And when we are asked about the measurement, not metrics, so measurement, then we will talk not only about the metrics, but we will also talk about the process. So, for example, regularity. We would talk about level. So not only operational, but also strategic level. We would talk about what is done after the measurement. So is there any follow-up? Is there any reward-based? Well, sometimes, but not so often. Okay, what else? Well, we do remember that there are models that show us the performance based on some aspects, like let's say Legion Cross, they saying that, well, we need to measure the financial part of the performance and commercial part. Well, the same with building block, and the balance scorecard is mostly about the same. So maybe we would also talk about the types of metrics. And when we talk about the types of metrics, I would just say the aspects of performance that need to be measured. So it's going to be financial usually and commercial. Okay, so this is what relates to measures and measurement. However, sometimes you can be asked about the impact on performance management. And when we talk about the impact on performance management, we need to talk about everything that you have studied in your advanced performance management exam. So what does it mean? Well, first of all, of course, it's everything that is connected to performance measurement, but also there are other topics. So performance management is actually about some models and techniques that help you to improve the performance of the company. But how to improve? Well, first, it's about setting the right metrics, because what gets measured gets done. But also there are some other techniques like, say, budgeting and control. Well, when we talk about budgeting, we do remember that there are different types of budget, like let's say zero-based budgeted, like incremental budgeted, rolling budget, and so on. And when we talk about a control, we can say that there is going to be budget constraint. There can be profit conscious. There can be non-accounting. And also when we talk about control, we can talk about control from the point of view of responsibility center. And that would be something like whether it's going to be a cost center. So whether it's going to be a revenue center, it's going to be profit center, or it's going to be investment center. Then we're going to talk about quality. And there is a huge part of topic that relates to lean management. And lean management is just in time, it's Kaizen costing, it's Six Sigma, and so on. Okay, and of course, it's going to be rewards and human relations aspect. Look, the thing is that when people come to advanced performance management, they're very stressed about knowing everything about the model. Well, where in fact, it doesn't really, or the knowledge of the model is not the key to success. Because see, when you are asked about the impact on, let's say, the introduction of some model on in the company, you can be asked about the introduction performance you can be asked about the impact on performance measurement, performance management, and the answers would be totally different. What else can be impacted? Well, what can be impacted also, there can be impact on information systems. Information systems is something that normal people call software, but I have never seen them calling that software in advanced performance management exams, so we need to call that information systems. And when we talk about the impact on the information systems, that they're basically two topics, and it's about the quality of information, and we remember this mnemonic accurate. So we are going to say that this information system will need to provide us with the information of such types, such as such characteristics, such as like timely, such as cost is less than the benefit, it's going to be accurate, it's going to be complete, it's going to be relevant, it's going to be accessible, and so on. It doesn't really matter how you decipher these letters, so they can be different, well, actually different words can stand behind these letters, but they are mostly the same. It's just for you to understand the complexity of how different the information types can be, characteristics can be. So when we talk about the impact on the information system, we might say that, well, now the information system would need to provide timely information, and the information will be relevant to the level of the decision maker that is going to use that, and so on. And the other type of the impact on the information system, like another way that we can discuss that, it's about waste. And we do remember that there are different types of waste, like motion, transportation, overproduction, overprocessing, and so on. Or it can be your way of explaining. And quite often we also talk about the types of information that is going to be used. So types, which means non-financial, that it's qualitative, that it's external, forward-looking, and so on. And the impact can also be on the role of a management accountant. And the impact of the role of management accountant would be that it's going to be cross-departmental functions. So they're going to be working not in the accounting department, but rather with other departments as well. And that the types of information would be different, and that it's going to be advice given, and education and explanation, and so on. In this topic about the role of management accounting, it sounds boring, but it's actually important and can be tested as something like 9-mark question in your question A. So Quite often we are asked about the impact, and I'm going to mark that as a type 1 of questions. So question, type 1. All righty, so let's mark that.